Another day, another video. We're talking one more time about the Vancouver Canucks and their hunt for a second line center. Now, at the time of recording this audio, it is the night of Wednesday, August 20th. By my calculations, if everything goes well, I think this video will be up on Saturday, the 23rd. Something like that, I'm not really too sure. There can always be things moving around after all. But as of right now, the Canucks still have not acquired their quote-unquote second-line center for the year. Filip Chytil is there in the organization. Seems like the Vancouver Canucks are confident in both Chytil and Radim to be the second and third line centers on the season, even though, of course, they will be projected to keeping their eyes and ears peeled if any other options become available in the trade market. But as of right now, we got nothing. No Marco Rossi trade, no Mason McTavish, Jack Roslovic could be going over to New York. And so now we're going to go over some more candidates here, courtesy of Stephen Roger on CanucksArmy.com. I'm going to leave a link in the description to this article that talks about some fresh takes on the Vancouver Canucks reported to see trade route. This was published by Roger from earlier in the week on August 20th, and I like how he starts the article out by saying, yeah, same as it ever was, unfortunately. Whatever the actual level of interest the Vancouver Canucks ever had in UFA Jack Roslovic was, their pursuit may be at an end. Earlier this week, Thomas Drance of The Athletic reported that the Canucks had cooled off on Roslovic. He further elaborated that the club wants a full-time center upgrade and doesn't see that player available in the UFA bargain bin. It's going to take a trade. So with that in mind, we have ourselves this piece which dives into a whole bunch of names that the Vancouver Canucks could indeed go out there and talk about, and there are two in particular that I wanted to have a conversation about in this video here. No, we don't need to talk about Marco Rossi for the umpteenth time. We've made a bunch of videos and a bunch of conversations about him and the Minnesota Wild. Same could be said for Mason McTavish of the Anaheim Ducks. There are some other interesting names here. William Karlsson of the Vegas Golden Knights. Imagine having Swede center number 1 in Pettersson and Swede center number 2 in Karlsson as your 1-2 punch. And then you also have Nick Waugh of the Toronto Maple Leafs. However, if you scroll down into the Colorado Avalanche conversation, this is where things get very, very interesting. Because the first name from Colorado that Roger writes out as a potential Canucks trade target is Ross Colton. The Avalanche just signed Victor Olofsson to a contract, and his $1.575 million contract leaves them with just over $1.3 million of available cap space. It also says just, so somebody's got to go out there and spell check that. It also leaves the Avalanche with an excess of bottom 6 forwards. Of the set, the best is probably Ross Colton, but he's also the most expensive at a $4 million cap hit. We suspect it might not cost that much to pry him loose, and there's been talk in the past of Colton specifically seeking a trade out of Colorado so that he'd have more of a chance to play center. Well, we know where he could get that chance. And here's the thing about Ross Colton. This is a guy that absolutely torched the league to kick off the 2024-2025 campaign. He's 28 years old, 6 feet, 194, left-handed center. He's listed here as an energy forward making $4 million a year till the end of 2027. You could be asking yourself, how in the world did this guy get a 2026-2027 deal at $4 million a pop? Well, it's because of the legitimately strong play that he has displayed over the past few years. Multiple-time 39-plus point scorer in Tampa and Colorado, and he had 29 points in 61 games this most recent season with the Avs. That's not even the craziest part, though, because if you head over to 2024-2025 and you take a look at the opening parts of this season, this is where Ross Colton absolutely shined, when he was playing on the top line with Nathan MacKinnon, when he was on the top unit, when he was getting 20-plus minutes a night, and when he had scored 2 points in the opening 2 games of the year. Following that up with a 5-point in 3-game stretch, all of these points, by the way, most of them goals, he started scoring a heck of a lot of goals to open up the year here. Ross Colton was one of the top scorers in the league. And it was crazy, just the amount of goals that this guy was able to put up on an Avalanche team that just kept on finding ways to win. Sure, he might not be a full-time, top-6, bona fide, second-line center option, but he proved in the most recent season that he can play with some of the best in the world, that he can succeed in that spot, and that maybe, if he's able to produce at a reasonably good clip, $4 million can be seen as a steal. Not to mention the fact that Colton was an energy forward for most of his time in the National Hockey League, and he was always bringing those intangibles. He was a very productive scorer. He had 20 goals in one season with Tampa Bay, half a point per game in the playoffs there when the Lightning were going to try and win their third straight Stanley Cup. They ended up losing to Colorado in 2022. But Colton still had himself a Stanley Cup with Tampa. He's a champ. He's 28 years old. He's right in that prime age. I like this guy a lot. But he's not even the only name that is talked about from Colorado on this article. Let's go back over to the piece and scroll a little bit further down. The unexpected revisits, as Roger goes out there and writes. This is a collection of names that the Canucks have reportedly been interested in before, and names they could be circling back on now. Marty Necas is the top name discussed here. We all know the Canucks were interested in Necas back when he was a Hurricane, and Pettersson trade talks were ongoing. We also know that the Avalanche are all too happy to trade their pending UFAs if extension talks aren't going well. Necas enters this season as a pending UFA. Should the Avs decide to flip him instead of re-signing him, the Canucks will probably show interest again, even if it's yet to be determined if Necas is a full-time center in the NHL. The challenge here would be both coming up with the assets required, Kindel and a first won't cover this, and then finding the cap space to extend Necas beyond this year. Neither will be easy tasks. So my question to you is Marty Necas an intriguing enough trade possibility that you would like to see Patrick Allvin explore too? He's younger than Ross Colton. He's 26 years old, 6'2", 198, right-handed center right wing, $6.5 million a year till the end of this upcoming season. He signed a short-term bridge deal just to stick around in Carolina, and he absolutely proved everybody wrong, because opening up the season, he had 55 points in 49 games. Heck, this isn't even the brunt end of it. He was so productive to open up 24-25. I don't have the split numbers in front of me right here, but just look at the amount of points this guy was able to get. Multiple 4-point games, even more 2-point games. I mean, for the first half of the season, Marty Necas was a man possessed. He was one of the top producers in the entire league, and things, unfortunately, started to slow down towards the end of December there, around the Christmas break. He then got traded to Colorado for Mikko Rantanen. He had 28 points in 30 games over there. Not bad, but not as good as the over-point per game production he had with Carolina. He also did a good chunk of this on the wing as well, rather than straight up just at center. So that is another element that you'd have to be wary of if you're Vancouver. If you acquire a guy like Marty Necas, would you be doing it as a center, or would you be doing it as a winger here? I'd say the Vancouver Canucks have pretty decent winger support nowadays. It really is just down the middle that they need more oomph. So getting a guy like Marty Necas to step into that second line, maybe Filipino goes to the wing, maybe you keep the same set of wingers and DeBrusk, Besser, Kane, Garland, Höglander, Sherwood, and you have one more battle for that last roster spot. Maybe there are some really interesting combinations you can provide, but Marty Necas as a center, that is one of the ones where if it works, it could absolutely pay off big time. Obviously, though, the trade price would be huge, and you would still need to extend this guy. We've known that he's confident in himself. It's why he only signed a short-term deal with Carolina a year ago. With all this in mind, though, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Roger's 2 Colorado suggestions for the Vancouver Canucks in Marty Necas and Ross Colton. How do you feel about these 2 Avalanche guys? Obviously, I'm a fan of them both. I had both of them on my fantasy teams the most recent season. I'd like seeing them in Vancouver if the price is right. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about these 2 guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. And buy.